This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of October 12, 2021, with instructions for internet access, was included in a meeting notice sent to the Brown County Times and the Courier Post on January 6, 2021, and advertised in said newspapers on January 8th and January 9th, 2021, respectively. Posted on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building on January 9th, 2021, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public. It is posted on the main doors Friday before the meeting and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. Levinson.
Here.
Mr. Klaus.
Here.
Mr. Montgomery.
Here.
Okay, we have the minutes. I need approval of the regular committee meeting minutes of September 14th, 2021.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Klaus.
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery.
Yes.
Mr. Levinson.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore.
Yes. Approval of the special meeting committee minutes of September 22nd, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Montgomery.
Yes.
Mr. Levinson.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. Klaus.
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore.
Yes. Reports, we have the tax collector, code enforcement, fire official, construction, and emergency services reports for September 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we receive the reports for September. I'll second that.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mr. Klaus.
Yes.
Mr. Levinson.
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery.
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore.
Yes. We're now open for comments from the public with agenda items only. Anyone in the audience need to make a comment? Any online?
Some hands went up.
We have Shelby McCarr online, but she is muted.
Okay. I don't see any hands.
Some hands went up.
Did anyone in the audience want to make a public comment regarding the agenda items? Seeing none? What?
Somebody raised their hand.
Where? I can't see a hand if it doesn't go up all the way. Well, yes, sir.
Thomas Kennedy, 6 South 100 in Haynesport. Not so much a comment. Am I allowed to ask a question on the things or no?
Is this related to the ordinance that's next on the agenda?
Sidewalks.
Yeah, so if you could just hold off, we'll have a public hearing on that anyway, and that way, whatever comments are made with regard to that ordinance are all at the same time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything with regards to agenda items? I don't see any hands, so we will close the public comments. Ordinances, Ordinance 2021-11, providing for the construction, repair, and/or replacement of sidewalks and curbing abutting the property owners and authorizing the placement of liens on non-compliant properties. This is the public hearing and final adoption. So we're open for public comment.
Do we want to allow John to?
Thomas Kennedy, 6 South 100 in Haynesport, New Jersey. My question is on the sidewalk. If it's not on my deed, am I still going to have to pay the town to fix it?
If it's not on your deed, but it abuts your property, under the law, that is part of your responsibility. And if it is in a state of, it needs repair, it needs to be replaced or fixed, then yes.
So homeowners now have to pay the town a fee, a permit fee, to fix their property, under duress of being put in a cage, because this says you could be put in jail for 90 days for not fixing the town's property.
Well, it's no different than if you were going to do plumbing on your private property. You need a permit, you pay a permit.
Again, private property. If it's, of course, if it's on my, but it's not my property. It's the town's property. My deed line stops, and then the sidewalk stops. Like, yeah, I'm going with the jurisdiction is an inch is as good as a mile. So where does it end? You start with compelling me to fix township property. Well, what's to say next year we don't push it out 100 feet, 200 feet? Or we have this development pay, like over in Claremont, we don't have anything over there, but now we have to fix the public property.
Well, to answer that question about 100 feet further or 200 feet further, I don't know that there's any statute that would allow that to happen. The statute that authorizes this is pretty clear that a municipality can do this, and most municipalities do this. They require abutting property owners. So first of all, you have to abut the sidewalk, right? And a lot of the sidewalks are actually within the boundary lines. Yours may not be, but the statute specifically allows this.
Okay, it may allow it, but is it the right, I'm asking members of the council and the board, is it the right thing to compel citizens of our town to fix public property under duress of putting us in a cage? And then not only we have to fix it, we have to pay you a fee for the privilege to fix public property. Because on the other page, it says we have to pay the town, we have to wet the beak at the town to fix their property.
If the property owner does not do it on their own, then yes, there is a process that the township would follow, and it requires notice, and there's an opportunity to be heard on that. It's not like they're just going to go out and fix it and then lien the property. So there is a whole process that has to be followed.
But at the end of the, yes, at the end of the day, though, you can cage people for not fixing public property. At the end of the day, when we go through all the legal process, you'll tell a township person, if you don't fix our property, we're going to put you in a cage.
John, if I could, isn't most of the sidewalks on the homeowner's property? That's my understanding that most, now, I'm not sure if it's with this gentleman here, but I was under the impression that for most of the people, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just saying for most of it, my understanding is that for most of it, it is on their own property. And just like we have to shovel the snow for people to walk through, you have to maintain it. Those are things, weeds and everything like that, you have to maintain that property. So when the gentleman is saying repair public property, to me, that's not my understanding of what it is that we were trying to do, that it was their own property, and just like they have to shovel the snow, they have to repair the sidewalk in that case, and it wouldn't pay us a fee to do it, it would be to repair it, and if they don't repair it within a certain time, again, your own property, so I don't know what your deed is, I don't know that, but that was my understanding. We wouldn't pay the township a fee to fix it, you would fix it, and if you don't fix it within a certain amount of time, of course, then okay, then we have to fix it because it's a danger to the community. Am I right?
All of that is correct, except every municipality is different, so I don't know if in Haynesburg it's most properties.
Okay.
I can't say most, but in many municipalities, it's most. I don't know if that's the case here. I do know that it's many sidewalks fall into that category.
And under the case,
We may have to look into this then.
yeah, under the case law, like, and see, it's vague area with tree roots, you're an attorney, but like under case law, how the New Jersey Supreme Court has ruled on removal of snow, the town can compel, says we have an ordinance, you got to remove the snow.
Correct.
However, the New Jersey Supreme Court said you cannot be held liable if you left it as Mother Nature intended it, but the second you put a shovel to it, now you're liable for civil liability if someone now slips and falls. That went before the New Jersey Supreme Court, and that's how how they ruled on that one, which is, well, I'm not even here to argue that, but
I'd like to know what case that is. Do you know the name of the case?
I'd have to pull it back up.
Okay,
It's
that's
in all the
very
case law.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's in all the
Like,
case law.
yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting to me too. But that's the thing that I'm concerned about is maintaining public property. So anybody can stand out on that sidewalk, I have no say-so. They can stay out there, have a party on it, but I have to pay to maintain it, and only me. So if that 200-foot section, I can't tell someone to leave, but the town will tell me, you have to pay us a fee to fix our property. So I got to pay you, then I got to pay $6,000 to re-cement the place, and if I don't, the town's going to put me in a cage, and that's where we're at.
Mr. Kennedy, I'm over here. Do you know that you're responsible for that? Has somebody said that you're responsible for that section of sidewalk?
Well, that's why I'm asking for the clarification, but clearly I am, because he said, yeah. So if, even though the deed shows it's not on my property, if it abuts my property, I'm responsible.
Is that like an easement, or, I mean, what is that?
No, the statute, it's just what the statute allows, because municipalities are not the ones personally benefiting. So even though on the deed and within the gentleman's survey, the sidewalk may not be within the four corners of his property, there's a benefit to the property owner of the sidewalk being there, right? And these sidewalks have been there in many cases for a long, long time. The statute's intended to provide that the property owner who benefits the most from the sidewalk is responsible for maintaining that sidewalk. If you live in another development, you don't enjoy that sidewalk at all. And I do take issue with the idea that everybody is allowed to have a party on your sidewalk. I think I'm not so sure I agree.
Of course I'm exaggerating, but it's a public right-of-way. I have no say-so, but I am being compelled to pay you to fix your property. And I just feel that's coming,
Let me make a comment. So when I first became mayor last year, while I was sort of out of things, I noticed we have a lot of bad sidewalks in town, okay? So John and I had a conversation, I think it was in a meeting, as far as shared liability between the municipality and the resident. If I fall and trip on your sidewalk, and you, can you explain that shared liability a little bit so the
Sure.
audience?
Sure, and let me preface it by saying that you keep saying that it's a public sidewalk. It may not be. I mean, it may be in that area between the right-of-way and the property line, right? It may not be dedicated to the township itself, right? So it may not be within the township's right-of-way. That's the first thing. Secondly, what the deputy mayor is talking about is, under the law, if someone falls on that sidewalk, and if it is in the municipal right-of-way, the township can be sued, but so can the property owner be sued, right? If the property owner has a duty to maintain the property, keep it safe, then that's the shared liability you're talking about. And so without an ordinance that shifts that burden and creates that sharing, it's fully on the taxpayers of Haynesburg Township.
so getting back to the privilege of who gets the benefit of it. Sounds like the town is getting all the benefit because I have to fix it. They're going to be excused civilly from any criminal liability, and I have to pay it all.
So let me finish on, because I'm trying to address your point,
Yeah.
okay? But we have to keep the liability thing open, and
Of course.
some of them, happen to be in my neighborhood, and they're horrible, okay? So we did we had the Municipal Works Department do a survey, and they went around town, and they identified the biggest problem sidewalks, okay? So we knocked around, and it's in section 6 in this ordinance, about the possibility of the township providing some grants to repair sidewalks in a rolling manner. And I don't know how the worst ones will be identified. I don't know, and that opens up another can of worms, because I can anticipate somebody like you standing up yelling that taxpayer money is fixing somebody else's sidewalk, and you're not getting the benefit of it. So we're trying to grapple with that, and that's a fair point. So we're trying to grapple with that, and we haven't, and I hope we find some monies in the budget
And
next year to possibly do a rolling repair and address the unfair and fair aspect of whose sidewalks getting done. It's sort of like, why did my street not get paved and Easton Way or some of the other developments get paved? They're independent audits, and I hope, the committee finds within their good graces to put some monies in the budget for next year. But also, Paul is working on how's that work looking so far? We're working on something else.
Right, it's due on Thursday. Safe Routes to Schools grant, we're eligible for that because it's within 2 miles of the Haynesburg school. even though those sidewalks are not used for children to walk to school because it's within the 2-mile radius, we're eligible to apply, and that's for basically safety, addressing hazards, walkability hazards, as well as health and wellness of the community. So I'm applying for we are applying for $1.1 million to fix the sidewalks, the top 6 that have been identified in Haynesburg Township, and they are Marne Highway on both sides from, I believe it's Hunterton to the bypass, as well as South Hunterton on the north side, and what's the next one? What's the one next to Ted's Liquor?
That's South Hunterdon,
No, then the next one.
North Hunterdon.
Cumberland?
Cumberland, thank you.
yeah.
Cumberland on the south side. I think that's, each of those 2 roads only have a sidewalk on one side. So we're applying for grant money to address those 3 in your community, as well as 3 streets which are the top worst, Craig Drive, Sandra Lane, and Laurel Ridge Road.
And you're saying you're trying to get the grant under the guise of the walk in the Haynesburg school?
It's a Safe Routes to School. It's a federal grant that's a pass-through.
The kids in the Claremont section, my daughter's grown now, but we're the only people in all Haynesburg, our kids have to walk the RV. So but that's.
Right, that's another
still
issue.
milk, it's still milk, but it seems like the Claremont is always forgotten.
Well, that's being that's included in this
understand.
grant, so
But
I'm
it's a
not
grant.
sure
The
why.
grant may not happen, though.
Oh, you're absolutely right, but we're trying to address
Like right here,
this
you said
equitably.
section 6, but it's not in here. The money isn't here, but what is in here is, it says, we'll put you in a cage for 90
No,
days.
you know, that's,
I understand,
you know, don't be extreme, that's not right.
but it's in the.
But listen, the
law.
sidewalk,
That's certainly not that's certainly not
yeah,
what
come
we're
on,
trying.
come on. And the side,
No.
you know, common sense dictates that the sidewalks need to be fixed one way or another. It's a safety and health issue. So we're trying, you know, the ordinance, you know, has a little more teeth in it than I would have liked to have seen. But we're
Maybe we should take that
gonna
out before we
address,
vote on it.
we're gonna address it, and, you know, we're trying to figure out ways, and it's a very important issue right now, and we're gonna figure out some ways over time to help address the issue. So, don't worry about getting put in a cage, because we're not gonna put you in a cage,
I
all right?
understand, but
you
that's
know,
in here, but the
I
money
understand,
isn't
but-
in here. That part is in here.
Well, you
The money
can't,
isn't.
the money's not in there because there's not money available to put in there. That has to be voted on and other things, so.
I have some concerns. I wasn't totally aware that adjoining township-owned property, we'd be asking them actually mandating them to fix. Is there a way we could table this and look further into it? Because, and maybe I misunderstood. I had thought it was only sidewalks that are in a public right-of-way that are on the person's deed,
They're owned by
on his
the property
survey.
owner. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I thought they're responsible to clean the sidewalks, they're responsible to maintain, and they don't have to pay the township, they can get their own contractor to fix them, but they're their sidewalks.
Right.
That's what my impression was. I'd like to table this and look
Yeah,
further into
it's
it,
just-
truthfully.
yeah.
Because I don't like the
ordinance is a little-
language on the
Yeah, it's a little-
penalty
Thank
part.
you.
I know it's legal.
Maybe we
but
should
it's-
know what's in it before we.
You know, I'm
No,
just.
no, wait a second. It's not that we don't know what's in it, sir, before we're discussing it. What it is that my question was, I thought most, and it's many sidewalks are in the property. So what we need to go further, we did a study, a vast study on sidewalks within our great town. And we did a lot of work. We had people go out and do that. So we do know bad sidewalks. What we need to further investigate, and which you were, quite frankly, Jerry and I are sitting next to each other, I'm sure everyone will agree that we're happy you brought this to our attention, that your deed does not include your sidewalk. So our concern is that we don't, in my opinion, and Jerry is in agreement with me, is that we don't want to have a homeowner, we need to talk about this, pay for public property that's not on your deed. So it's not that we didn't do our homework, we weren't aware of it, we didn't read it before it was out. So I don't appreciate that, because that's not what happened. So we're in agreement with you, and we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I'm sorry I'm raising my voice, but I do not want to be accused of not doing the work, because we did. So I agree with Mr. Klaus that I think maybe we could table this, look into it a little bit more, and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the homeowners. And to go further, and this got a little further than what your point was that we're also looking at grants so that homeowners aren't going to even pay for it even when it's on their property. And we're looking for that, but that has yet to come. But that's what we're doing to help homeowners, and to help our town. So it's not that we didn't do our homework or didn't read it before it's out there. Is that clear? I mean, am I making sense? Am I making sense? I mean, am I answering your question?
Yes, but we were,
Okay.
tonight, if no one spoke against this, this would have been voted
Well,
on.
I have to tell you,
Without the,
I would never realize, I wouldn't have realized
without
that.
the money,
Not really. You don't know how we were going to vote.
would-
You don't know.
we don't know where the money is for the fix-it, so we're hoping we get grants. We may not get grants. Grants are a hope. They're not written in here. It's not saying we're gonna set
Sure.
aside $30,000 every year for, that's not in this bill. What's in it is a hope and a dream and a prayer. We shouldn't pass bills on hopes. We should know where the money is.
it's more involved.
It doesn't work that way.
I
It doesn't
understand.
work that way.
But you got your own,
Yes.
he's
The
done.
gentleman in the back had his hand up first, please.
He's done.
Up at
Yeah,
the
come on up.
podium, please.
Come on up.
May we have your name and address, please?
Hi, my name's Paul Colella, 2203 Craig Drive, Hainesport. I'm neighbors, and I know some of the folks up here for years. This was kind of rolled out very quickly, and most of us on Craig Drive, who are aware that there's a problem with the sidewalks, because we've been asking for years for the township to fix them. So I raised 3 kids here over 30 years. Hainesport Chase for about 12 years, moved away, came back and lived on Craig Drive. Since I moved there 15 years ago, the sidewalks have been in disrepair. So over time, our neighbors in the back here from Craig Drive, they have little children. So my kids are graduated from college. They have grade school kids. They're concerned about the sidewalks. So the concern here, at least, and I'm not speaking for them, but is that they're in such disrepair, you're going to put a financial burden back on the citizens who have been asking the township to fix them. And multiple times they've come out and said, yeah, we're going to get to it, we're going to get to it. And then we'll put money in the budget or whatever, but we're not getting it. I don't think it's from someone not caring. Maybe we weren't more vocal, or we weren't vocal enough. So when we saw this and heard about it, this is, not acceptable to us. And a gentleman mentioned it may have had a little too much bite to it. You got us here. So before you move ahead, I would ask you to come out, take a look, assess these things. They planted trees there 50 years ago when I was a baby, a little kid. Some of these people weren't even born. And they shouldn't have planted the trees there next to the sidewalks. They're uprooted, they're damaged. It's going to cost $10,000 a piece to fix it. So I've been paying taxes for 30 years here. Shovel the sidewalk, it's in bad condition, been waiting for it to get fixed, because I'm not the kind of guy that calls up the township and says, you need to get out here. And neither are these people. So now when you hear there's going to be fines, or you're subject to this, that, and the other thing, we're good people of Hainesport. We want the sidewalks fixed. We want our kids to be able to walk to school without tripping and getting hurt. I have little kids who walk up and down the sidewalk, people that live in our township, community. We don't want them to trip and get hurt, but the township has not been out there to fix it since I've been here since 1990. And those trees were planted back in the 70s, right? So the damage, where the concrete hasn't been affected by elm trees or oak trees, it's fine. Where you planted them, and it's not our responsibility for that. We don't own that property. We'll shovel, we'll do our due diligence as we're supposed to, put salt down, but when it comes to heavy concrete, trees that cost $10,000 for 2 to take out, you're putting that back on us as taxpayers. It's ridiculous. This hasn't been thought through enough. Before you roll this out again, I would suggest you talk to the homeowners in the area, get the stories and figure out what we've asked for. My neighbors, both of them, sinkholes right on the sidewalk. Not their fault. It was the way it was planned. It was the way everything was put together. So here we are 50 years later, and you see section 6, you're like, what are you talking about? So I'm going on, but I think before this comes to a vote, communicate better with the people that it will affect, because I lived in Hainesport Chase. I had nice sidewalks. I moved back to Craig Drive. They're horrible. So the newer communities are fine, but you have communities where kids have been walking to school. My kids, when they were in grade school, were walking on those sidewalks. They're in bad shape. They need to be fixed first. And then if you want to turn it over to the residents, we'll take care of it. But first you got to fix them, not dumping on our lap. Okay? Thank you.
Well, John, let's, again, everybody heard what I said, that, it became a pet project for me. This is a little heavy, this ordinance. But, the intent was to look for ways, the municipality to look for ways to get involved with the repair. But I want to just address your point. We have our attorney here who's very experienced in municipal law. John, whose responsibility are the sidewalks if they're on the right-of-way? Just so we're all on the same page.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You may not like the opinion, you may like it, but
Sure.
we're going to get a legal opinion on who's...
If they're within the right-of-way and there is no ordinance, they're generally either the county's responsibility, if it's a county right-of-way, or the municipality's responsibility. And the question that has been, and I will also respectfully disagree that this was just done like this. This has been under discussion for a long time.
Yeah.
And the discussion...
Not for repair, though.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, it's been talked about as to how we address the issue of
Right.
repairing sidewalks. And in fact, there was a slideshow presented showing a number of sidewalks throughout the community that are in a terrible state of disrepair, could be considered dangerous. And so the idea was that, and I think a comment was made earlier, that there's no benefit to the property owner. Real estate people will tell you curb appeal is huge when you're trying to sell a property, and curb appeal starts with the curb and goes right across the sidewalk and up to the house. So the idea was, and the deputy mayor mentioned it earlier, the municipal governing bodies are always challenged with the idea of balancing interests, right? So they're trying to balance interests. And the interest is, why should people on one side of the town pay for where there's no sidewalks, pay for sidewalks in another community, in a development, where the property owner who has that sidewalk in front of them clearly gets a benefit economically from the value of the property because there's a sidewalk there. That's the balancing. You can agree or disagree whether those benefits exist, but there are some who say there is great benefit to that. And so the idea was both balancing the financial burden of undertaking the repair of sidewalks throughout a community geographically of this size, and putting it on the burden of taxpayers who have no nexus, no relationship to those sidewalks, versus putting it on the property owners who specifically benefit from that sidewalk being in front of the property. And again, it's debatable whether you agree or disagree, but it's what governing bodies do every day of the year in New Jersey. They deal with these decisions. If the governing body is not comfortable moving forward tonight and has some questions, then it probably is appropriate to just table the ordinance, continue the public hearing to the next date, and we'll come back to you with some answers.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree, because as Mr. Kennedy first came out, at least my understanding is for us to force someone to fix something that's not their property
Right.
is a whole other issue.
Sure.
And so I appreciate.
Sure.
And it was Mr. Kennedy, is that
Colella.
his name? No, but the first
Oh,
person.
sorry, yeah.
I'm sorry, I know you, sir, but.
Yes, that was Mr.
So when he
Thompson.
came out and said, this isn't even on my property, I'm like, whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
So again, something I think it is a good idea to table it and discuss.
And the only thing, and I can appreciate your comments, but again, I think most normal homeowners and residents of this town will take care of the sidewalk, shovel, do the necessary due diligence. However, these problems started many years ago, before some of these folks bought homes with those sidewalks in that condition. I know there's two couples here right now. They bought it under the assumption that the township was going to eventually fix them, because that's how Hainesport works. They usually work for the resident. This sounds like a get you, in all due respect. And that's the way it's viewed by my neighbors. So, and one last comment is that my understanding is if these ordinances are not rolled in, it's still it's a state law that it's the township's property until these ordinances are pushed. Not
I think I just said that. I said in the absence of an ordinance, if it's within the municipal right-of-way or in the county right-of-way,
It's your property.
it's our responsibility.
Correct.
Not
And
our
right
property.
now,
Remember,
it
keep
is.
in mind also, a right-of-way is simply a right-of-way. We don't
Yeah.
own the property. The property is not the township's property, right? It has a right-of-way over it.
Right.
It has an easement.
And I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the law, but what we're saying the same thing here is that it's not my property, but it's the assumption that the township that put it there and is supposed to maintain it over the years now wants to put it burdensomely, part of my English, back on the resident and the homeowner. That's the part that we have the problem with, that's all.
But also keep in mind, the township, and again, I'm not arguing.
I'm not arguing, yeah.
In so many of these cases, the township didn't put the sidewalk there. A developer did. A developer who built that community put the sidewalk there, right? So the township didn't do that in the first place. But again, I come back to the idea of committees.
But they had to get the approval.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Well, so,
A developer got the approval for those properties.
right,
Township didn't do the
right, but they
development.
approved the plans to do it.
Okay, then is the answer, don't approve any plans?
Well, we can do this all night, but you heard what I had to say, so thank you.
Do
Thank
you
you.
want to move to table? Or do you-
Excuse me, can we move to table it and
Can we
carry the, or do we
Can we
want
get
to
more comments?
continue?
It's your call.
There
Well,
are more comments.
I
I think we've
I
heard
think-
the comments.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been some valid points. Again, there's always unintended consequences to any good deed, and this is, they have to be fixed. I don't think there's anybody in the room that disagrees with that. How we go about fixing them is for maybe another night. So, I'm going to make a motion that we table the,
There are comments in the audience I think
table
we need
the.
to address.
Well,
yeah.
we have a couple of members of
We need to hear
it.
the committee would like to hear the comments.
Yeah,
while they're
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely.
So if
Come on
it
up before we
doesn't,
vote on it.
You could choose one of the two.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and address.
Deborah Harris, 7 Elsinore Drive in Hainesport. So I rise today and ask the committee to do something that it sounds like you pretty much have already decided to do. Just stop and reconsider what it is that you're doing here. Just because you can do something does not mean that you should. This measure, I'm sure now you realize, now that you've had a second, third, fourth, fifth reading of it, and of course some presentation from your constituents, is draconian at best. And Mr. McLaughlin, I just want to say that the issue of liability is separate from what we're talking about here. We're talking about cost shifting. Just because Title 40, Section 65-1 at sequence allows you to shift your burden for repair of the sidewalks to your constituents does not mean that you should. It is a burden at a time when your constituents can no longer carry any further burdens. I'm sure if you were to talk to them, they would tell you their stories of the last 18 months and all the loads that they've had to bear during this pandemic. To add another financial burden because you're looking to shift the costs, I understand it's difficult. Many townships seek to do it. It's something that's done across the country. In Arizona, where we moved from, developers fund a variety of different funds because the sidewalks move from the developer's responsibility to the public responsibility. As your municipal attorney can tell you, we have a well-rooted system in English common law where the sidewalks become public easements. Yes, we've had Tort Reform Act that have allowed you to transfer your liability Raise your eyes all you want, but you can transfer liability to the abutting owner. That is a fact. The abutting owner is responsible for keeping their sidewalks clear. We have statutes on that. But the statute is also clear that if you decide to carry the burden of sidewalk repair, you can do that. It's your choice to shift this draconian measure onto us at a point in time when we cannot carry the burden. I would ask you to do what you're already doing. Table this measure. Take a more measured approach. Look at the Rutgers study from August of 2009. It's still relevant today in terms of some of the recommendations and the cost shifting and the funding. Mrs. Costco talked about some of the funding and the grants that are available. There are other means and measures that can be taken to fund sidewalk repair. It does not have to be on the burden of the abutting owner. Sidewalks increase the value of the entire township. They increase walkability for everyone. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have those school route funds available to you. Sidewalks are important for increasing the value, and they're important for the community, which is why you've had these Craig Drive residents for the last 15 years complaining about the state of their sidewalks. I understand it's an issue. I understand it's a cost, but it's also something that perhaps you can do a little bit more thoughtfully. So please hit the pause button and reconsider this measure and come back with something that's a little bit more fair and a little bit more thoughtful in terms of the cost shifting, if that's even necessary. Perhaps there's other funding available.
Ms. Harris, do you have any
Thank you.
suggestions with regard to what you would think would be a fair cost shifting?
You know, I
Option.
don't. I have seen a variety of different types of cost shifting. I have seen in my research a 30-70% split. I have seen a 20-80. I have seen a 50-50. I have seen a cap of 2,000 for every 10,000. I have seen developers being asked to fund certain donations for funding of sidewalk repairs so that all of the funds are then siphoned back to the residents and the constituents who need the sidewalk repair. So there's a variety of different types of funding and cost plans available, depending on the size of the municipality and depending on the size of the overall repairs required. It really just depends. I think most of your residents and constituents would say that they want the township to keep the burden the way that it is. Maybe that's fair, maybe it's not, but I would ask for a measured approach. Take a look at that Rutgers study. I think it's probably well worth your time. And I used the Google machine. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Ted Urbanski, 2407 Craig Drive. And yes, I'm one of those victims of this wonderful sidewalk condition.
I'm sorry,
But
sir, I missed your name.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, sir, I missed your name.
Ted Urbanski.
Thank you.
And what brought me here tonight was an element of surprise and disappointment in this town, this township. I was surprised in that this resolution was passed. I had never heard a thing about it until, thank God, Mother Neighbors told me about it. And what really upset me more than anything was the fact that in the middle of a pandemic, this township wants to take the opportunity to make property owners responsible for something they've been complaining about for a long time. And these people are either suffering with COVID itself and or the perils of not having a job. And the township's not considering that. That just struck me crazy. That's why I'm here, first and foremost. Next was, prior to 1990, the typical rule of thumb for shade trees throughout this wonderful state was between curb and sidewalk. Typically, that was it. There was no other choice. And when Haynesburg Township decided to make the builder, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, put the shade trees there, of course, they picked the wrong trees. They picked oak and maples, which were dumb, but they did that. We're suffering for that now. If you take a ride over to good old Haynesburg Chase, you'll notice that in the infinite wisdom of this board, this panel, you changed the location of shade trees. You took them away from the curb and sidewalk You put them on the front lawns because you eliminated damage to the sidewalk to pedestrian traffic. Obviously, we're concerned. I don't have young ones, obviously, I've passed that time, but I have grandkids that play with the young ones on the street. Are we concerned about the well-being of those? Sure we are. But to get a resolution thrown at us overnight was like, I just was stunned. So, yeah, I think what Mr. McLaughlin had said and what Ms. Costco said about looking at this thing and maybe pulling money from somewhere is a great idea. But if that can't happen, I think the residents of this town, the residents, at least on Craig Drive, are owed someone doing we got a problem. These sidewalks need to be fixed, and we've tried our damnedest to do things about it. We can't come up with the funds. We don't want to force your hand and go through this 30-day trial. What can we do to work things out? I think that's a kind of relationship. If you read your mission statement, and if you haven't in a while, read your mission statement, because it flies in the face of what was going on here with this resolution. Totally flies in the face of this resolution. Your mission statement was for the care and custody of the general population of this town. This doesn't say that. All this says is, you realize there's a problem, you want it fixed, but there was nothing said about considering the thoughts and the finances and the issues surrounding the people in this community. I'm done, and the people before me did a hell of a job saying pretty much what I want, but I really think tabling this thing, and please, make sure it gets well advertised, because if, as Mr. McLaughlin said, if the bite doesn't change in this, I'll be back. Not that it'll mean a whole lot, because I'm not an attorney, and counsel will know better than I do. But again, you folks directed the developer to put those trees where they are. That's the mistake. They didn't make that mistake over in Haynesburg Chase. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Anthony Savino, 2302 Craig Drive. As you know, you guys know, Craig Drive is tore up. It's been that way. I moved here in 2007, and it was always bad. We complained, no one did nothing. Barely could do anything. I talked to the Public Works guy one time because the tree on the corner, I think his name was Jay, the tree was on the corner, and it was starting to dig up the road. And he gave me, a song and a dance about it, and we kind of jostled a little bit. I haven't really heard anything since, but one of you was at my house recording my sidewalk, and I'm not sure who it was.
Ken, that was me.
That was you?
Yep.
Okay. You said to me that this should be the township's priority.
So I can tell you what I said.
I can tell you what you said too. And you were kind
of
of a little nasty to him, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong
right,
way. Because, can I speak? Because you came to my house.
I didn't come to your house. I was on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I let you record. And you said to me, I said to you, what are you doing? And you said, well, I'm recording because I'm running. And these curbs, they should be the township's priority. They should be the township's.
Yep.
They should fix them.
Yep.
You won, huh?
Yep.
And now things have changed.
So, okay, now
Go ahead.
I just need to address that.
Okay.
Absolutely right. I did not come to your house. I was on the street and on the sidewalk.
The
right?
sidewalk that you guys own, go ahead.
Right. And what I said was that I'd really like to see, these things are old, they need to be fixed, it's a safety hazard, and I'd like to see the township fix this. And that is, okay, and that is.
What happened? This
And that is,
happened.
let me.
In jail?
Anthony, let me finish, please. Let me finish, please.
But you put jail in this.
Let me finish.
me. One
It
at
does
a
have a
time,
lot of
please.
teeth in it, but let me finish.
Teeth. Knives.
So what I wanted to propose is that the township look at these things and that pay for this, because typically homeowners take care of the sidewalks. So I felt, as well as my running mate, we both felt that the township should do this. And that's what we did. That was one of the things we addressed. So when we came in, we looked at grants and we looked at this, and I promise you, that area right on the corner where you live was one of the most egregious that we wanted to fix. as a township. That was on the survey, and I don't know if you saw the other people out there that surveyed it, and that was on the study that we had, was it 2 meetings ago? Where we posted the pictures up, where we looked at the sidewalks, and we did it. So we did the study, we put time into it, we went out and looked at all those things to address those issues, and that was one of those areas that we felt, yeah, there's one of the worst, so we want to do this as a township. So then, what happened was, someone else said to me, well, I don't even have sidewalks in my community. Why are you going to raise my taxes? Why are you going to charge me? Let me finish. So I'm trying to take both sides of it, right? Why should I pay for sidewalks? Well, I don't even have sidewalks.
It's like someone coming to you that doesn't have a kid in the school system.
Okay, good point. So that's why we went and we looked at the worst areas and we tried to address that. So those worst areas, we are looking at those. And this is, one of the reasons, which is great that, again, I had no clue that sidewalks were not on the property, that it was not. So that doesn't make any sense for us to make someone repair something that's not on their property. It doesn't make sense. And some of these things where these trees where the developers planted, and of course, I wasn't on the board then, no one here was on the board then when they did all that, right? So it doesn't make sense to put big trees there, it just doesn't, right? So, so that's why I looked at it, I'm like, well, I think that's what we should do. I still think that's what we should do. I believe that. But we need to look at the whole community as a whole, and that's why we looked at the grants, we looked at different things, and that's why we're passing this. So, and I think the intent of this board here is to do right by the community, but it's to do right by everyone. And the worst sidewalks we want to fix as a township.
I don't know I know Bruce, and I have a good relationship with Bruce. He's a good dude. My one question is, she spoke of a grant, okay? What happens if the grant, we don't get the grant?
Right.
That is my ultimate, final question
know,
that I would like to know.
We still have to try to get it,
Again,
though. We have to
intent-
try.
I'm the guy, put this on my shoulders, as I said in the beginning. I noticed, especially your corner, I live there, they're pretty bad. Now, some people have fixed the sidewalks, but here's another issue, and I'm glad that you guys came out.
Yes, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Because here's something else that was floated. Well, we're going to have to cut all those trees down along Craig Drive. Not over my dead body. I don't want to see them cut down. I don't know how you people feel. Now,
I think, let me tell you, I want that tree on the corner down. I don't want that tree there.
Yeah,
I want it there.
some of the people, some of our neighbors went around their trees. Well, John, you brought that up. That's a hornet's nest too. If we take the sidewalk,
So the other half that's not here want them,
pardon me?
just to be clear, the other half that aren't here want them to stay.
Right, yeah, no, I
That's another
understand.
dilemma as
But,
well.
I'm not floating that idea of the trees, but maybe it's, but to go around, we've really looked at this. Again, this ordinance is not, so it's a little too strong. But to go around to go around some of the trees, we have to get you guys permission, if we do a repair, to go on your property, to go around the tree, or we gotta knock the tree down. We've looked at this a lot. But again, the spirit of this was, and I'm going to rely, and I mentioned it at the last hearing, number 6 is we're looking for the money to do that. I have to admit, I overlooked some of the other things. There's a lot of legalese in the ordinance that, if you're reading it for the first time and you're affected, it's pretty mean. It's pretty mean-spirited. But a lot of that's just legalese, but I think we need to really look at the ordinance over again. But again, you guys need to understand, we're looking for the money to do that. I still didn't get an answer who, in the end of the day, is actually legally responsible to fix the sidewalks. Some people think it's the town.
He did.
Some people, well, let's get an answer.
I'm going to go sit down. I just also want to
go ahead.
thank whoever
Go ahead.
Anna Evans is, because if Anna Evans,
Anna's right there.
Yeah.
if it wasn't for her, I don't know if anybody'd be here. I really don't.
Yeah, well, I don't
So
think-
then I don't know what happens with this.
Yeah, I don't think it was going to pass.
Anna, I like her.
Yeah. Hold on, Anna. Let's just get a legal opinion on it, because I asked the question before.
Yeah,
Is it
so-
our responsibility
If the...
to fix these sidewalks?
If the sidewalk is in the right-of-way, and there is no ordinance like this, then if it's in the county's right-of-way, it's the county's responsibility. If it's in the municipal right-of-way, it's the municipality's responsibility.
Okay, so that's, we just have to find out each individual sidewalk where it is, and the onus is on the municipality to fix them, if they're in our right of way.
Somebody has a phone ringing. It's a little annoying. Thank you.
My name's Christopher Mark Antonio from 2211 Craig Drive. I've been a resident there since July of 2019. I had a lot of good talking points that my neighbors have kind of stolen from me here. But the biggest one that I really have right now that you guys brought up is, it doesn't matter, it does matter, but when you go to whose property is what and this and that, it would be fair to say that the trees that are in between the sidewalk and the curbs that are really lifting up these curbs on our street, you know, I have taken one of those trees down because it started to do it and I didn't want to have to do the concrete work. You know, I've done that before in my life. I could do it myself. It would cost me very little, but it's the principle of this, to where, you know, in a case-by-case basis, on our street, how does that affect the ordinance? Yeah, that's not in here at all. Because usually, if I'm not mistaken, the way the laws read is if what's on my property ruins the sidewalk, then that sidewalk is 100% on me because it's mine. It's my property that's creating hazard. If it's on the other side, then where does that fall? Where does the liability there fall? On you? Like, does it fall on the township or does it fall on me?
So to go to your first hypothetical, Mr. Antonio, if the tree is on the lawn side
Yes.
and the roots are causing the uproot,
Right.
causing the sidewalk to,
lift.
yeah. And you say, you know, under the law, that's your responsibility?
From what I've read, yes. Obviously, I don't know statutes and columns and such like that.
When the person who trips over that sues, they're going
Right.
to sue you and the township.
Okay.
Because I'll go back to what I said before, if the sidewalk is in the right of way,
Okay.
then the township and the property owner are going to be pointing the finger at each other, right? Township's
Right.
gonna be
Right.
saying,
And it sounds here like you guys are trying to wash your hands of that.
no, we're not trying, it's, as I said earlier, they're trying to balance the interests. And,
Okay.
you know, one of the things I think everybody needs to understand is this, and I said it to Mr. Cole, that this was not done suddenly. This has been in the process for a long time.
Okay.
This is
Under
a
the cover
public,
of darkness, apparently, because this is the first we're
it
hearing.
wasn't under the cover of darkness. The notice was published. It was introduced at a public meeting, at the last public meeting. It was introduced. There was questions about it then, right? A public hearing is the opportunity for the governing body to hear from the public. It doesn't have to be adversarial, right?
Okay.
You come up, and you're not being adversarial. I'm not saying, but just the general tone, you know, it's an opportunity for the public to educate the governing body. The governing body is not up there to be adverse to the public.
Right.
This was something that's been kicked around for over a year. This is a proposed solution to it. If it's not the best solution, then as the committee said early on
Right,
this
then we
evening,
can table it,
it'll
yeah.
table it and try and come up with a better solution.
Right.
But I just think that it should be a conversation, not a lot of yelling and, you know, accusing, because the committee didn't enter into this with any evil motives.
Right.
So I just offer that.
Okay, so now that you've talked in circles, and I don't even know if you've answered my question, when
Pretty sure I did.
the tree is on the property, the township property side of the sidewalk, not on my side, so the tree that I have not hypothetically taken down, I've physically taken down and paid for, that lifted up the sidewalk, when that happens all up and down my street, where is this going to, how is it, where is your, you know, is that still going to fall on the homeowners? Or is that going to be something that,
So I don't have the surveys for your development in front of me. I don't have the deeds, so I don't know where the property lines end and begin. I don't know where the municipal right-of-way ends. And again, remember, a
Okay.
right-of-way is simply an easement. It
Right.
doesn't mean the township owns the property.
gotcha.
So I don't,
Okay, now, and then the other question I had is, we're talking about all this money and grants and raising taxes and stuff like that. With the pandemic going on, we were locked down. The only thing we could do was walk around the neighborhood. I live there's an access road between Hainesport Chase and Sage Run. And the entranceway to Sage Run was under construction with new egresses, new sidewalks, new pavement, new flashiness all around. And yet the sidewalks on Craig Drive stayed the same when there was no problem with the sidewalks in Sage Run. So
You
where
mean-
That was a
You mean
grant.
Hainesport Chase, don't you?
No, Sage Run. It's Perry Drive.
Is there an access
Perry
between,
Graham was,
Couldn't they redo the road?
yes. they
Which
were
requires
repaved.
them to bring everything up to handicap code, on.
Right, okay, so that is
It's
the next
required.
question. So now we have, which we don't have on Craig Drive, you were about 20 feet from it when you were filming your video for Facebook to get elected. There is no, on Craig Drive, there are no egresses for handicap access.
Okay, it's my understanding, when they upgrade the road and they pave it, you have to upgrade the intersections to put handicap ramps in,
Who paid-
because
who
the
paid for that? Who
road
paid for
needed, the township.
Okay.
But
There was-
because the road, it's illegal, you legally have to do it when you upgrade the road.
Yeah, you can-
Because the road pavement
I can
was
legally
slated
sue
to
if I
repair.
trip on a sidewalk that,
Well, I'm not a lawyer, I couldn't tell you that. But I just know when you upgrade the road, and we have a road program, and we have all the roads numbered and need on how they're going to be upgraded. So,
so the handicap access is leading to the sidewalks
Will
well,
get done at that time.
yeah.
would get done
But
at
if
that
Craig
time.
Drive is on that list to be done,
Okay.
it's required. They have to upgrade all the intersections, the corners, put handicap ramps in, they have to do that.
Right.
It's a requirement when you repave the road.
Okay, so I don't understand.
so.
So you answered my question.
Let me just ask let me ask a question to your point. Paula, was there a grant for those sidewalk
For Sage Run?
changes?
Yeah.
So the grants to date with DOT have been Phillips Road, Bancroft was two in a row, Arc Road, and then we started our first ever road maintenance program, which we contracted the assessment company, and that was done through capital funds, and that included Perry, it included one of the courts in the rear. Those were identified as the most in need, as well as a couple streets in the Glen. But anytime that there are any road improvements, the handicap ramps need to be brought up to code.
And Paula, how
that's
do
the
they
law.
decide which roads need to be done?
That was done through a road pavement evaluation.
Right.
We hired an outside contractor to conduct. That has been available. It's on the township website for the past 3 years.
And the roads are independently labeled A, B, C, or D as far as the need for
They're
improvement?
labeled by index, like road improvement. There's a certain range, and if they're classified as needing the most improvement, they're color-coded. And we tackle the ones that are labeled as most needed to be improved.
And we as a committee or just people that are within our government, we don't determine those designations, is that correct?
No, that was Street Scan that did
That's an
that.
independent company.
Okay, so we maintained egresses that were already there with grant money and completely overlooked cross streets without any egresses for 2 blocks on Craig Drive.
Well, that's because the pavement, the actual road surfacing itself wasn't
roads are pretty bad.
labeled as being in need of repair, so.
Yeah. The houses are bigger.
No, it's settlement. And there was a storm drain.
We're talking about
We're getting a
storm, we're
little
talking
off
about roads, not
topic,
sidewalks.
yeah.
Craig Drive has constant traffic on it. I asked for speed bumps, I asked for numerous stuff on Craig Drive.
I don't recall seeing you at a meeting. I don't remember you being to a meeting in,
No, I call, but whoever Paula Tiger was, she knows Anthony Savino. So, and there was another guy.
Paula Tiber's the tax collector?
I don't know, that's who they sent me to, the township administrator.
It's Paula Costco, that's me.
Costco,
Paula
Paula
Tiber's the tax
Costco.
collector.
There you go. They also removed the tree, I called about that too.
You know,
Well,
this-
again, folks, I'm gonna.
Enough. We've already, I think
Yeah,
we've discussed this enough, and
Yeah. So
I have a motion to
Yeah,
table.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we just put this aside, and, some good points were brought up about,
children that live on Craig Drive.
Just-
okay, yeah, well, I
It has to
I
do with
appreciate that.
this
So,
project.
again, in the spirit of the
That's good.
beginning of the discussion, almost 2 years ago, we were looking for ways to repair it. Again, this ordinance
I
just,
have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
okay.
Thank you.
And I have a statement and a question on my.
Okay,
Just to reiterate, Mayor, that
Yes.
I think we need to revisit this. Some good ideas were brought up about, in the meantime, we've been working on some grants and some methods to possibly pay for it. We're looking to put some monies in the budget next year. We do have road improvements in our budget almost every year, right, Paula, for the foreseeable future that the town is paying for. Again, the list is independently arrived at. So I think if we could just work this whole subject a little different and maybe incorporate some ways of funding and maybe bring it back when we've arrived at some of that.
So that I understand the motion is to terminate the ordinance, not
Correct.
table it, to terminate it.
To terminate.
Until we come up with a new solution.
Right, that's my motion.
do I have a
Ken,
second?
was that your second?
I second. I'll second.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Before you leave this evening, those
Thank you.
people that were here for this particular subject that live on the streets that are mostly affected, the Craig Drive, Laurel Ridge, the Barn Highway,
Sandra Lane.
Sandra Lane,
Martin
if you
Highway.
would please sign a petition that we have, which is, well, it's not a petition. It's a letter of support for the grant that we're trying to go out for. The more residents that sign this, and it was our intent to go door to door tomorrow, Mr. Glaus was going door to door to see who he could get to help support this. So for those of you that are here, I think it would be a good idea that you,
And there's also anybody here from Martin Highway, Cumberland, and South Hunterdon. So there's two of them. I'm going to put them on the table. I had to leave because I had them in my truck to take them around tomorrow morning. So I'm going to put these out, okay?
thank you.
One last issue, I'd like to make a statement. These things are presented, these issues are presented to the public ahead of time, and we don't see anybody come here. We get few calls. I actually called in, and I was probably one of four. So there are 3 people interested in the committee meeting, and there's like virtually nobody out there most of the time. So participation in your government will give you good government. If you don't participate, you're going to get what you get. And there will be people who are out there who will try to, get out there and stir things up, but they shouldn't have to do that. You should participate.
So are you trying to say that what are you saying?
I'm saying participate.
Come to meetings, I shouldn't really have a good right? Is that?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is, if you're the only, what I'm saying,
You're saying, yeah. When you think I'm going to be here tonight, I suspected there all my life until Anna Evans informed me that there was something going on here.
well, I think that's great.
You're
And
telling me that maybe if I was involved, I pay my taxes, I do what I gotta do. You tried to sneak something through, you got caught.
oh, no.
I mean, so you came.
I just am asking for participation from the public, not just on sidewalks, but, no.
Excuse me, but for the public comment for this ordinance is ended.
You seem annoyed by it, I'm sorry.
No. There is a time in the agenda for public comment,
Yeah.
and back and forth from your seat is not appropriate. Thank you.
And thank you for attending. And if you ever want to talk to me, Mr. Servino, privately, you're welcome to do it.
Did you get something back there?
I'll go take it there.
We'll go. I would go. All right.
You take a break.
Could we have 5 minutes of we have recess. For
For motion?
Could I have a motion
No, for recess.
I'd like to make a motion.
for a 5-minute recess?
I'll make a motion, we have a 5-minute recess.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, she's a...
Do we need a motion to come back into meeting?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we rejoin the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just a little bit out of order, in case Sergeant Antonucci gets called away. Would you like to report at this time, sir?
Good evening, everyone.
Hello there.
Sergeant Antonucci. Nothing major to report in regarding crime or criminal activity. It's been relatively quiet, calm. That's a good. Troopers and detectives are continuing to investigate the vehicle break-ins from before, following up on different leads, and are working with other municipalities to assist in identifying possible suspects. Just a general reminder to the residents, please lock your cars and secure any valuables such as purses, laptops out of view. Also, if anyone sees any suspicious individuals walking around, looking in the cars, please contact us so we can respond. No issues at the tavern and table since we've done these extra patrols on the weekends. Back in June, I told everyone about the suspicious male going through residential areas. Well, he was arrested, but now he's back out. So if anybody has contact with him, give us a call. If he's doing the same thing he was doing before, talking to young kids or females or whatever. Our school resource officer is Trooper Frank Morris. He's out there at the schools teaching safety lessons to the students. He's also assisting with the State Police Community Policing Initiative. And again, troopers from Bordentown have attended several events in Hainesport. We been to the movies in the park, the food truck festival, and just the other night, the trunk or treat. We'll also be attending the first responder dinner. Again, if there are any issues or concerns within Hainesport Township, you can advise Paul Costco. She's my contact. And any emergencies or reporting a crime, call 911. And our non-emergency number at the station is 609-298-1171.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Troop.
Thanks.
So we now have some consent agenda resolutions, 2021-122-10, 2021-123-10, 2021-124-10, and 2021-125-10. Do I have a motion
I'll
and a
make a
second?
motion, we approve the aforementioned resolutions and move for their adoption.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-126A-10, to amend the adopted budget for additional items of revenue and offsetting appropriations, Chapter 159. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Well, okay, I'll take it, I guess, Ken, sorry.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Montgomery?
That's okay, yes.
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-126-10, awarding a grant support services for fiscal year 21 EPA Brownfields cleanup grant for property formerly known as Paul's Tank Cleaning Service.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes, with a question/statement. Paula, did you apply for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
the
Paula.
vote's yes. So this isn't automatic, this was applied for. Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
I'd like to say yes, and also thank Paula. Good job as well. Thank you.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-127-10, to amend the adopted budget for additional items of revenue and offsetting appropriations, Chapter 159.
Motion to approve.
Second that.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolutions 2021-128-10, authorization to purchase multi-channel audio-video recording system as needed to support multiple remote communication platforms.
Motion to approve.
So moved?
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore, I'm very, very sorry. I don't like to make a habit of this. However, I need to make a request of the governing body to amend the agenda. I know. We actually received grant money for the next resolution, which is awarding the contract for the municipal playground. We did not do a Chapter 159 for the $75,000 that we received through the CDBG. You had previously authorized that grant. We received it. However, we need to do a Chapter 159, amending our budget to accept that money.
Okay.
Because part of the funding for this municipal park grant, in addition to the county grant, includes the CDBG. So if I could make a request to amend the agenda, adding Resolution 2021-129-10, I'm sorry, 129A-10, which would be another Chapter 159.
Okay.
And specifically, it would add miscellaneous revenue, to miscellaneous revenue, 2021 CDBG grant for municipal park improvements. That would be the revenue side, and then the general appropriation would also be 2021 grant CDBG funds
Okay.
I'll make that
for
motion.
$75,000.
And I'll second that
We
then.
need to amend the agenda first,
So yes,
Yeah.
so a motion to amend the agenda.
so I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay?
we do an all in
Vote
favor?
On that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then the next one will
Okay.
be a vote on 129 capital A-10, amending the budget to incorporate the 75 grand.
Okay, I'll just make that motion.
And I'll
Thank you.
second the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes, and here's another grant. We've been talking a lot about grants and free things the town's getting, and I'm sure this had to be applied for and written in great detail, Paul, and I
Yes.
appreciate, I know the committee appreciates your work. I don't mean to gloss over it, but it's a lot of work that goes into getting these grants. So I'll vote yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-129-10 is awarding the contract for the municipal park Phase 7 Playground Replacement and Improvement Project.
So moved.
We need that.
Second.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Good job. Nice, Paul. Good work.
Thank you.
See, we're so used to you getting these grants, and we did the sidewalk thing, we're thinking we're going to get that grant too, so. I know that's-
pressure.
I know.
I don't know.
That's the intent, right?
I know. My batting average has not always been 1,000, so
No.
don't be
it's-
upset.
You're not
All right,
walking on the
sometimes I
air, but
swing and
you're,
miss, don't worry.
you're not
We
walking on the air,
have
but
a,
you're skipping.
We have a couple of business licenses to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the business licenses?
Second the motion.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, now we have comments from the public. Ms. Evans.
Anna Evans, 63 Parry Drive. As you know, I did want to speak earlier, but I understand that you felt that the ground had already been covered, and I would like to thank all of the residents who came out tonight to speak so eloquently about their issues with the sidewalk ordinance. I just want to make a few points about the process by which we arrived at what happened tonight, okay? So firstly, it was said several times that this issue had been under consideration for a long time, and that is true, but it is also a little misleading. The sidewalk issue has been discussed for a very long time. We have known for a very long time that we have poor sidewalks. I do not believe that the ordinance was brought up until August. That is just 2 meetings ago. It is in my minutes that I looked at quite recently. Solicitor Gillespie brought up that there should be perhaps an ordinance to define the liability between the township and the homeowner. So although the issue has been discussed for a long time, the ordinance has not. It was brought up just 2 months ago. And then instantly in September, we got the first reading of the ordinance. And as you know, the September meeting wasn't very well attended. I was the only person who was present to ask questions, and I did ask questions, right? So, you know, when the residents say that maybe it was rushed and more thought needed to be put into it, I think they do actually have a point. My second point on this is that immediately after the September Township meeting, I went onto social media, and I wasn't trying to stir things up, by the way. I was trying to inform the townspeople. I went on social media and I put a heads up that this ordinance had passed its first reading and would be going to public hearing and final adoption at this meeting tonight. And I reminded them all of that this past week when I saw the agenda with the ordinance on. And that's why you got these people out tonight, okay? So what my problem is here is that I don't feel that we as a township are communicating effectively to townspeople that issues that affect them are going to be going to a public hearing and final adoption through official channels. If it requires me stirring things up to get the residents out, then something is not working in our communications process.
Well, Anna, first of all, the municipality and Mr. Gillespie didn't invent the ways that ordinances are adopted. That comes from the state, okay? And the ordinance has a first reading and it has a second reading, public comment. That's all done by the state, okay? We don't control that, okay? Number two, I think that people were a little excited because they didn't necessarily understand, okay, if the sidewalk was their responsibility to fix or not. We did learn a little something from it, but I think there's been overreaction to whose responsibility it necessarily is. I agree the ordinance didn't smell right, didn't pass the smell test with the 90 days in jail kind of thing, but I think that's even in there for dog licenses or something, okay? So, you know, whether things got stirred up or not, we'll leave that to another day. But I think that the thing would need to be revisited since we've had this coming and identify. And I don't necessarily think the town's going to bear the responsibility or the brunt of identifying each and every property owner's, you know, what's the right of way, what's not the right of way. I think that probably would have come at a later date. But it sounds to me from what our solicitor told me that the overwhelming majority of the responsibility to repair the sidewalks does rest with the town. So I think things kind of did get a little, you know, again, the 90-day in jail thing, again, that's legalese, you know, but again, so I think we need to look at it again.
Right.
We're going to fix the sidewalks are going to get fixed. We just have to figure out, you know, a way to make it happen.
And as far as sneaking it in or whatever, there's
Nothing was snuck in. You'd learn that if you were up here, because it's easy to sit on that side of the podium and say things, but when you get up here, you realize that ordinances, there's rules that have to be followed to adopt ordinances. We don't make them up. They're done legally. They're advertised.
I do.
Don't you know? I don't appreciate you saying, you know, and I get where you're coming from. Maybe a little more than you do, but things weren't snuck through, okay? Nothing's ever been snuck through.
I didn't say
They're
that. I said it was
advertised.
rushed.
It's not rushed. There's a certain way to adopt an ordinance.
I understand.
And you'd know that if you were actually up here.
Bruce, I have been coming to the meetings for 5 years.
Well, then you should know better.
But you're missing
Wasn't
my
rushed.
point. It wasn't the space between the first reading and the second reading and adoption that is the problem. It's the space between it coming up in casual conversation at the August meeting and the ordinance.
That's not how ordinances take place.
I don't think enough research was done. I don't think enough of the townspeople were talked to between it coming up as an idea and it arriving as a fully fledged ordinance on your desk. That's the problem.
First day I was mayor last year, first meeting, it was brought up. It's been discussed. I even admonished the municipal employees, why don't we have, and again, I didn't know, again, it's easy to criticize, I did not know how big of a project it was to actually do these surveys and figure out what sidewalks needed done. It took a year, okay?
But you're missing my point again. I know that the issue of the sidewalks has been discussed. The problem isn't the issue of the sidewalks, it's this ordinance. The time between the ordinance first being talked about at a township meeting and the time between the ordinance being introduced was 1 month.
That's the legal statute that the state requires for passing an ordinance, okay?
No, that is not what it is. You can talk about an ordinance, you can go and consult with the townspeople, you could do a survey, you could get input from the people who are affected, and then you could introduce the first reading. You don't have to introduce an ordinance a month after it is first mentioned as a possibility, correct?
I think what's missing from the ordinance is whose sidewalk is on whose right-of-way. I think that's the issue. And I would be upset if it wasn't in my right-of-way and I was being required to repair it. I have to be honest with you, I didn't think of that because I don't necessarily have the situation. We had some people come out who made some very valid points about whose responsibility it is. So we're going to take a look at that and we'll do it. That is the flaw. And we appreciate some people coming up and mention it. I personally did not think that.
All of those points were made last month when I talked about the first reading of the ordinance on Haynesburg happenings. All the points that were brought up tonight were brought up in the Haynesburg happenings
I
group
got to tell you,
in
I
response
don't
to
think the governing body looked on Haynesburg happenings necessarily to govern our town. I got to tell you.
We terminated it to revisit it later.
Yeah,
I think it's time to move on. I think
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Kitty? Take your time.
Yeah, I live on Bischoff Avenue. Catherine McNeil's 407 Bischoff. I live on Bischoff Avenue, which is off the south side of Route 38 on Creek Road. And for years, we've tried to get a sidewalk or a bike path down that street from Bancroft to 38. It was on the plans when they first put Creekview in. And, yeah. Ron Korn decided we didn't need one. So they took it off of the plan. And then when they put Lakeside in, they were going to put a sidewalk that was going to run from Bancroft to Lumberton. And I came in and I requested that they use that side, being they said they weren't going to do it because there was already a sidewalk there. I asked them to please put it from Bancroft down to 38 because there's no shoulders on the road. We have a lot of kids that ride bikes up and down there, a lot of kids that walk up and down there. We had a man on crutches get hit by a car in between them things. And to this day, they've never done a thing about it. So I'd like to see you people think about stuff like that too. Even though it's a county road, Paul Tuliana decided to put that bike path or sidewalk that they were going to put to Lumberton back here on the bike path, which they already had grants to do that. So we didn't get a chance. It would have been done for us. The builder would have done it, but no. So now there's supposed to be paths for people to go to buses, to go to stores, to save gas. So you use a bike, you walk. We needed a way to get there. There's a bus stop at the end of at Creek Road and 38. And there's just no way to get there safely. I used to ride my bike 4 or 5 miles a day. I can't even walk now because I haven't ridden my bike in years, because when I came down Creek Road, one of these trucks dragging lawnmowers came so close to me. He scared me so bad I never rode my bike again. And there wasn't even a car coming in the other direction. But he still stayed so close, and his trailer was wider than his truck. He scared me so bad. So we would really like something like that. And Paul Tuiana said, oh, well, you can't do that. It's a county road. And you can't do that because he had so many excuses why he couldn't do it. And yet they did anything they wanted. They widened the road. They did everything for all those other developments, but never did anything towards 38. The next thing.
I'm sorry, where are you looking for this bike path? I missed the beginning of what you said, I'm sorry. Where are you looking for? You're looking for a bike path on Creek Road on 38?
No.
The sidewalk.
Creek Road, where it crosses 38.
Yes,
I'm going south
okay,
towards Lumberton.
okay,
Right at the top of the hill, I'm living in the little dead-end street there.
okay,
But we have this much room
right,
to walk,
right,
to ride a bike, to do anything.
right, yep.
And I can't see why they haven't done something. And another thing, I'm president of the senior citizens, and one of our ladies was walking down the sidewalk. She went over to the drugstore or post office, came across, and she tripped on the uneven sidewalk in front of the street building. She walked around with one of those soft casts on her leg for months, and she had to wear a brace on her hand. I called the township. I didn't talk to the administrator. I talked to one of the ladies there, and I explained to her that I thought they might want to have a heads up that somebody got hurt on the property for the township. And she told me that doesn't bother us. That has nothing to do with us. What does have to do with you? I mean, this lady was really hurt. So I don't think it's been fixed till this day. You did the side of the street building, but I don't think you did across the front.
Was this recently, Kitty?
It was, it's been a few years. You remember when she fell? No, you don't remember? Well, I bought we didn't even have a Band-Aid to put on her, so I bought one of them emergency
First aid kit?
with Band-Aids and all that stuff, and I had the township put it on the wall for us because we didn't have anything available to help her.
So this was years ago?
This is several years ago now. But it still happened, and it's still on township property. And when you're told it doesn't have anything to do with the township, then how can a bad sidewalk have anything to do with the resident?
Well, we're going to work on it, Kitty, and we have fixed sidewalks.
I know that.
Everybody
I know,
knows
Bruce,
about
but you know
Albert
what?
Street. We fixed it, I think we've done about 3 or 4
years.
jobs on Albert Street that we fixed.
For years and years, Bruce, I've been hearing this. I mean, I came to 25, 30 years of meetings before this epidemic. And I always heard you announcing grants for inside Haynesburg proper only.
Those are the...
And how many times do we have to fix sidewalks all over Haynesburg? Why weren't we thinking about getting some kind of, maybe a penny tax? For over the years, you would have had plenty of money to fix all the sidewalks without putting that on a resident that wasn't expected it all of a sudden.
If I can, Katie, if I can address the proper, inside Haynesburg proper, that's because That specific grant that was being applied for was the CDBG grant,
I
and it was
realize.
only eligible for identified, they're called census tract areas. You okay, Kitty?
Uh-huh.
For identified census tract areas, like they were only eligible for that, and the Hainesport proper was identified as the only area in Hainesport that was allowed to receive
Well,
that
that's what I
particular,
said,
that
but you
particular
still had to
funding.
understand that this
Yeah.
other rest part of Hainesport must be having the same problems as the proper part of Hainesport.
Sure.
So I'm just saying we maybe should have thought ahead of that. And I don't have any sidewalks,
Correct.
and I don't have a problem if they have to give a little tax, as long as it's not too much, because here I am, no kids in school for 40 years, but I'm still paying school tax. So you can think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thomas Kennedy, 6 South Hunterdon. Excuse me, I just want to address one thing that Mr. Levinson had said, that a lot of people don't come out. People are busy, but that speaks volumes for the board that people aren't here, because for the most part, you guys are doing a good job.
Thank you.
And occasionally, you need a town crier to let the people know what's going on, hot button issues,
Understood.
so the system worked well. So
Yeah, you're
people
right.
have very busy lives,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, we do as well, and we're glad that we can all make it, and we're glad that all
And
of
of
you
course,
can
we would
make
love to see 300 people out here in the audience every time, but
Understood.
people are busy.
Yeah.
So that speaks a good volumes for what you guys are doing. For the most part, the town does a great job.
it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have town criers, and occasionally we just have to come out and address issues. And with
Good
that,
deal.
you'll see me 3 years later.
Well, visit the
Thank you, Ann.
website. It's getting an upgrade, and we're also in the process of having an app put out for the township for more information.
Yeah.
So keep your eye on the website, and
And as the solicitor
App
said, it was probably harsh language using the word cage, but I had to get the point across. It
Yeah.
was written in the language of the bill, and that was a
Yeah.
scary thing.
Okay. Very good.
Pardon me?
Thank you.
app. Everybody's moving to the phone, so we're moving into the 21st century, and we're having an app. No problem. Anyone else? Anyone online?
There are 2 people online. Oh,
Could I say one more thing because I forgot something?
She can sit. She don't have to go up to the
Well,
podium.
you can sit,
Stay there.
stay from there.
I didn't make it to the planning board, but I feel like if they're gonna do anything with warehouses at Stevenson's property, behind the health haven, they should have access to 38 somewhere. Because they have so much traffic on Mount Hall Road already, you can't even get out of the driveways there. So somebody has to make them put access. They did have a plan at the time to come out at Bancroft, but they, for some reason, didn't do that. If they have a reason they can't do it, then they should buy where Rod Dodge used to be. Whatever they have to do, you would not approve Creekview until they have access to 38. You should not approve anything for Stevenson unless he has access.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Online participating?
there are 2 people online. If you have anything for public comments, you can unmute. Nope.
No? Okay, with that, I'll close public comments. Comments from the administrator.
So as I stated earlier, I'm in the process of writing the Safe Streets to Schools grant that is due on Thursday. As of now, the cost estimate for those 6 residential roads is about $1.1 million. That does include and is required that the sidewalk improvements that we are requesting for ADA access. So all of the intersections, and we are aware that there are intersections within the Chase that have no ADA ramps onto the road, but they have to, the grant has to include provision for that, as well as upgrades to the existing ADA ramps, as well as pedestrian signage. It's all about safety, as well as wellness and walkability within our community. So those, if we get the grant, will be part of the upgrade. I also just want to remind the community that the township agenda is posted on the Friday before the meeting. Our ordinances are posted after first reading. Just as Ms. Harris did, the community, the residents, anyone is welcome to submit an OPA request for documents. I am also available at any time to field any calls or questions or concerns. We also provide, even though it is not mandated, a hybrid meeting where not only do you have to attend in person, but the provision continues to be made that you can participate online through our GoToMeeting platform, as well as our YouTube Live. Residents can view on YouTube the meeting. And the link to the meeting is also posted within several days on the township website. All prior meetings can be viewed for the past year and a half if there's any questions or concerns. All of those links are on the township website. And just as Mayor Gilmore said, we are revamping our website to be much more user-friendly, as well as introducing a new phone app for Hainesport to be better connected to the township as well as the businesses in the community. So I would have to say, in my 22 years of experience, Hainesport is extremely transparent and does a wonderful job in connecting with its community as best as possible. And I applaud the governing body as well for not governing on social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gillespie?
I don't have anything to say there. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the committee. Mr. Levinson, welcome back.
Thank you. I have no comment, but thank you for holding the fort down. Of course, I know I participated via technology,
Yes.
and it's a wonderful thing. And also, thank you, everybody, for appearing. And Anna, thank you.
Okay, Mr. McLaughlin?
So, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm a little surprised at the price list. But knowing government, when you have to do things at prevailing wage, the price doubles and triples. And I was hoping to ask the committee for a $20,000 bill in the budget to start fixing sidewalks, but it's going to be 50 years, maybe 60 in my 8th grade math. So it's going to take, that's kind of ridiculous. So I appreciate Paul going out for the.
Let's not forget about new ones either.
Pardon me?
Let's not forget about adding new ones.
Right. And again, everybody left, they made their point. I still think we were vague as to whose responsibility. They thought it was to fix the sidewalk. It sounds to me like it was our responsibility, but the ordinance may have clouded. And I don't know, John, do we need this ordinance to apply for the grant? We never asked that question.
No, the ordinance has nothing to do with the grant. The ordinance was originally born of the question of liability, right? And the issue that there were a number of sidewalks that were in need of repair. And so, the committee will remember that, I guess it was maybe last June, I can't recall, the committee authorized the undertaking of a survey, right? And then, with all the stuff going on in the pandemic and shortages in public works, they didn't have time to do that. And so it was continued. But the effort continued, right? It was forgotten. It was just, it took a little longer to do it. And that's what brought it to the table in August was, okay, well, I guess it was June, I can't recall, June or July was the PowerPoint presentation and the photographs, right? And then July, we had the discussion about what are the best ways to do it. Is it best to bond for it? Is it best to do it by way of a special assessment, right? There was a pretty robust discussion about what are the alternatives available, right? And so committee, we talked about the one that seemed the fairest, which was if the township undertakes to do it, it's going to have to do it at prevailing wage. But if the township allows the homeowner to do it, then the homeowner can have it done at not prevailing wage. And prevailing wage is generally, rule of thumb, 20% higher. And also, if the homeowner did it, the township wouldn't charge the cost of inspections. The township would have eaten that, right? And by the way, for what it's worth, that was ordinance 21-11, which this is October, which means there were 10 ordinances adopted, maybe one a month, right, into now. Every ordinance followed the same procedure, right? There was a discussion, You authorized me to put together a document. It was submitted. It was introduced. An introduction of the ordinance is what gives rise to the public hearing. And they don't have to be contentious. They don't have to be adversarial. And the governing body shouldn't be accused of things. It's an opportunity for a conversation. And that's what you had. And as a result of the conversation, notwithstanding that there were quite a few accusations made against you unnecessarily and probably without any factual support for them, you determined that it wasn't ready to even discuss any further, so you terminated it. But to say that it's misleading to suggest that we were considering this for a long time and having discussions because it got on an agenda in September and was scheduled for public hearing right away in October, that's not misleading at all. That's the way it works. That's the way it works in all 566 municipalities. All the 10 ordinances were adopted this year were done that way. I don't know how many ordinances that you adopted in 2020 or in 2019, but they all followed the same procedure. There was a discussion. I mean, all the redevelopment plans, they were ordinances. They were thick packages, right? They were the same process. And they were, frankly, this was what, 4 pages? They're like 30 pages. And every one was done the same way. Nothing was rushed, nothing was misleading. There was public comment on it, public discussion. We have over the years, as a result of public discussion, changed the ordinance on the table. We've made changes on the table and then continued the public hearing so that those changes could be the subject of a public hearing. That's the way it works. Nothing misleading about it at all.
And
Thank you. Thank
and
you,
the intent here is that the municipality was going to try to, and of course, we have tax dollars coming in to bear the brunt of the cost where we're responsible for the sidewalks, which I think is a gray area now. So it'll be back, and I just hope the committee finds we can get started a little bit at it, that maybe the worst ones in next year's budget.
I have no doubt, I have no doubt that the worst ones were probably where these people were living and that they were on that survey. And I certainly know that one corner where Mr. Savino was talking about was on that list that we wanted to take care of that. So yeah, to your point.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Mr. Montgomery?
So I think we've talked about the sidewalks enough, so I'm just going to move on to the Cannabis Committee meeting that we had. Paula Costco, Scott Taylor, Chris Murphy, who was on the Joint Use Land Board, and Jerry Klaus and I attended this, and we discussed Class 3 wholesale and Class 4 distributor, and we really felt that we did not want to limit the number of licenses. If in fact we decided to go forward with this, we did not want to limit the number of licenses in Haynesport. And, talked about industrial zoning and highway commercial, et cetera. And then we discussed about distributors. And Jerry, if you want to add some color commentary to it, you were there with me.
Well, one of the things about distributors, we wanted them to be plain box, and they would just be distribution function. There'd be no manufacturing of any kind, no repackaging. It would be just what a distributor does. That was the main concern. On your point, that the reason we don't want to limit them, if we limited them to 2, and you had 2 big guys come in and apply, somebody else might not apply. So we want as many people to apply for those.
We're business friendly. We wanted to, yeah.
Right, so by limiting it, you actually do limit how many applications you get, and that was our concern.
Yes, and then we have another meeting coming up with the committee. Not everyone was able to attend this one, but I think there's eight people in our committee that we have. Right, a resident, a business owner.
Business communities
Right.
represented also.
So we have people represented, so we're going to continue to talk about that and do the research, et cetera, so.
Yeah, it's going good. Yep.
Okay.
And we continue to go around town to talk to neighbors and get people's opinions of what they think of it, and et cetera. So it's always very interesting conversation.
Quite varied.
Yes, very varied, yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yeah, I want to talk about the, we have something coming up, and I'd really like to have a committee of residents involved. On September 14th of the year 2024, we're going to be celebrating our 100th anniversary in Haynesport Township. And I really think in 1974, I just moved here then, and it was a pretty big deal for our 50th. So when we get to the 100th.
Are you that old?
Yeah, I've been here a long time. Oh, man. So, but I think it's a really something, it might seem early, but it really isn't, because if we have a big event, we're going to want sponsorship. We're going to want a lot of items, covered. And I'd hate to be planning this 9 months into it and say, man, I wish we had started sooner. So I'm going to ask Paula, we're going to talk about it and see what everybody else thinks about putting together a committee town-wide, because frankly, I'm pretty proud that we're going to be 100. And
I think it's an awesome idea.
It's awesome. I
Yeah,
think
good.
and we can be very inclusive, everybody. I think it's going to take everybody to make it a big event.
Yes,
So-
it will.
So.
I saw Ms.
It'd be interesting to-
Lucci's ears perk up.
Part of it would be interesting to know if we have any centurions, is that what they're called? People that
Yeah.
are 100 years old that, who knows?
We did, I think, at one time.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
I remember our 75th, that was done on, I was across from the street building, I think.
And obviously a whole lot of other things, and how the township has grown and progressed, and I think that.
Well, I actually got
Quite a project.
I actually talked to the mayor, who was mayor then, and Bob Shin, Robert C. Shin was mayor during the 50th anniversary. And I got a chance to look through all his material and the newspaper articles, and it was really, really interesting, because I knew him in 1974. It was
How
just
about that?
interesting that, it's kind of neat.
So you were an adult in 70? I'm just kidding. I'm just
No,
kidding. I'm just
no,
kidding.
no,
Just
don't get
kidding.
there.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't answer that.
No, I was 14.
So
No, everybody's getting out their calculators.
Yes. So,
All right.
yeah, that's a big thing, so I'm just concerned about that. I'll touch on the sidewalk thing real quick. I was surprised, because I don't have sidewalks, and I don't have curbs. I don't want sidewalks or curbs, because I don't want the responsibility of taking care of them, truthfully. So I totally understand, and I learned a lot, because I really thought, okay, the sidewalks that, people should just take care of them. And I had no I've seen them, but I guess we had a problem, some of the trees, if you don't want the trees taken down. As an electrician, I have a problem with trees between curbs and sidewalks, because the trees grow up into the utility lines and create problems. I never knew why they plant them there. But I also say, if you want the tree and the tree's damaging the sidewalk, should the township pay for that? I don't think so. But on the other hand, if you don't want the tree, should the township make you have the tree? Well, I agree. So there's a lot of questions about this. It's not cut and dry. But I do have concerns. I kind of think, if you don't want the tree and the tree's doing the damage, we should be allowed to remove it. But if you want the tree and it's doing damage, why should we, as taxpayers, bear the burden of that? You know what I'm saying? So there is I'm trying to look at it logically, but I totally learned a lot, and obviously it seemed like everybody here says cut the trees down, which is really the problem.
Yeah.
Trees are a big problem, so-
And Paul said next month it would be the people that didn't want to cut the trees.
Right, it could be.
And, and to say it, that when Mr. Kennedy got up and spoke about the sidewalk is not on his property, Jerry and I just talked, we should table this. Because that right away, that alerted us to, whoa.
Well, I also had a concern, if you have a property that abuts a park with a sidewalk,
Right.
where,
Yeah, it's just a lot to it.
I'm not a lawyer, I didn't,
So
a couple things went through my head that said, wait a minute, so.
Right.
Yeah, but if I may, I'm not, I'm glad we tabled it, but I'm not so sure if those odd cases, like Mr. Kennedy was saying, his might be, we're going to be served. I think the 90-day in jail, again, which is a standard tooth in an ordinance. Again, I think it's in the dog license.
It's in many of our chapters.
And I don't know of anybody that I've ever heard of, and I've been around here, got locked up for not having their dog license, which is a bad thing. I mean, you got to be, but anyhow, So I think there was some, little bit of overreaction that, I'm gonna get locked up.
Right.
If I don't fix a sidewalk, that's not my responsibility to
Right,
fix,
yeah.
okay? That's why I kept asking John, whose responsibility is it? So we tabled it, we'll come back again for another day, and we'll give it some more thought, on how to, but we're gonna fix them some way, somehow. It's not going away, and these conditions are only getting worse, so we'll figure out a way to be fair,
Discussion will
right? Right?
Discussion will continue, yes.
I'm done. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, well, on a lighter note, I promise not to mention the, and this is Fire Prevention Month, and I'd like to remind everyone to change their batteries and their smoke detectors. Also like to remind people that story time is Friday the 15th at 10 a.m. for preschoolers 2.5 to 5 years old. It's over at the Street Center, and there's a special guest attending this Friday. So anyone who knows any preschoolers, please encourage them to attend. It's a great program that the Recreation Department's putting forward. And Cleanup Day is Saturday the 16th. It's 7 a.m. to noon, so that too is over by the Street Center, so it's time to get rid of all that junk and
Shredding, right?
shredding and everything else. And
But no businesses.
No business.
No business.
Just for Haynesburg
Yep,
residents. The senior citizens meet the second and the fourth Thursday of the month, so that's this Thursday over at the Street Center. And the flu shot clinic is Wednesday the 20th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. At the Street Center. You can sign up using the QR code to pre-register, or you can also walk in. The information's on the Township website and in the hallway, and there might be a couple of copies of it in the back of the room. October 28th is our annual First Responders Appreciation Dinner. We expect to see some of our state police, the fire department, EMTs will be attending. On November 11th, it's our annual Veterans Day lunch. It's free for all Haynesburg veterans with a small fee for any other attendee. The forms to sign up are available on the website or in the hallway of the building. Last Friday was the final movie in the park. It was Hocus Pocus, and we also had a trunk or treat. So I'd like to thank Donna Casey for arranging it. She did a great job. And thank the EMTs, the fire department, state police, Donna Kilburn, Paula Tiver, Jerry Klaus, and everybody else who participated. It was a great fun time for the children. And I hope everybody has a very happy and safe Halloween.
How about Community Day?
Community Day.
Did I mention that? No,
That we had, the
Yeah.
great, oh, well, that was fabulous.
I worked, you did a good job.
That was fabulous. We had the antique car show and food truck day, so that went extremely well. Oh, and you did, congratulations. I heard you, you did well in Hershey.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows I like cars a little too much, and I was very honored to have one of my cars receive a national award at Hershey, so I have 3 more to go, but that was good, yeah. But the car thing turned out really good. The food trucks were here. We had, what, 4 or 5?
Oh, great.
It was good. It was really
Yeah.
busy.
Yep.
And that was the first car show I ever entered with my old truck.
Yeah, Jerry had his antique truck there, yeah.
Oh, cool.
You won Preservation Award.
That's what I did, yes.
Rust.
The most preserved work truck.
Most
Yep.
rust.
Yep.
Anyway, that being said, we have some bills to pay.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
I will second that motion.
What is it?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Pay 'em, yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. So this evening, we have an executive session. So
I'll make a
I
motion.
believe Resolution 2021-130-10 to enter for attorney-client privilege and litigation.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
So for the public's benefit, this will probably last 30 to 45 minutes. Formal action will not be taken. There will be no resolutions, no ordinances, nothing arising from closed session this evening.
All right. Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I don't want my wife to find out about the surprise party, so I appreciate your guys going through my extra due diligence here. I know it sounds crazy, but
All right, we are ready.
So do we have a motion to come back into session?
Motion to come back into session.
second,
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, all in favor?
Aye.
And
Motion to adjourn.
I so we need to just give John
Yeah, just
direction on what we
a
discussed.
motion to authorize the solicitor to proceed on both matters as discussed in closed session.
I'd like to make a
Motion.
motion that John proceed on both matters as discussed in our executive session.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, John.
Motion to adjourn?
Please.
Second.
Okay, good.
All in favor?
Aye, aye.
Ah,
So adjourned.
all of this.
Well, this is the longest meeting I've been to so far.
You've never been on.
Um,
I need.